Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlie Herman and welcome back to Charlie's Cruise Tips and Reviews. So today's video is a bit different than normal. This is called Cruise Planning 101. Now this is more so for those people who have not cruised before many times or for those who have not cruised before at all. So this is basically just a way to help people make their planning for their next vacation, their next cruise vacation, as stress-free as possible. Because the thing is, um, most people think when you're going on a cruise vacation that your vacation begins when you get on the cruise ship. But to be honest, your vacation really does begin when you leave your house or your apartment, your home for the airport when you're flying in for your cruise. So this is pretty much going to be about the entire process of when you leave your home, your house for the airport, when you arrive in your port city, and even up until the morning of embarkation day, just to make everything a bit less stressful and just to make the process a bit easier, as so everything just is seamless. Okay, so the first part I'm going to talk about is the traveling part, the when you're flying in for your cruise. Okay, now as I said earlier, your vacation really begins when you leave your house or your apartment for the airport. So what you want to do is, if you live in a certain place, you might not have a choice where you fly out of. If you do live in a place like New York, in certain places in New Jersey, in between, I'm going to say Providence and Boston in that corridor area, certain places in between Baltimore and Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and Baltimore. Basically, the I-95 corridor is probably the best example to use. Um, you want to fly out of the airport that's closest to your home where you live, but also one that is easier to access, I would say by public transportation, because sometimes, as you know, the weather doesn't always cooperate, or if you leave a certain time of day, you know you're going to deal with all types of traffic. So what you really want to do is uh, find a way to get to the airport that makes your life the easiest. So if you live, say, within a downtown area, and there is public transportation options such as taking a bus, taking a commuter train, taking a subway or metro rail, taking even a ride share, or somehow sometimes if you can there's actually a bus that takes you directly from a certain location, an express bus right to the airport. These are all good options, and it makes it a bit less stress-free. But as I said, I think the most stress-free option would be either the train, a commuter train, or a metro rail service because you don't really have to worry about getting stuck in traffic. So that would make things easy easiest. Now, some of you who have seen my videos before know I have a 24-hour rule for when I travel for a cruise. For example, if the cruise leaves out of Miami on Sunday at 4 o'clock, I want to be in Miami by 4 o'clock on Saturday. Now, everyone who's seen my videos knows that before. But um, I have more recently made it 24 hours to 36 hours before your cruise is scheduled to leave. The reason for this is that you want to allow for delayed flights, cancel flight, certain times of year, definitely because of bad weather, especially this time of year. We've been getting more snow than normal here in New York, so you always want to account for bad weather. And also another reason which happens to me a lot, and it could really happen to anyone, is if you just plain out forget to pack something that you need for your cruise and you need time to go out and find it. Even if CVS or Rite Aid or Walgreens or Kmart, well, Kmart just went out of business, so we really can't use them as an example, but any one of these pharmacy type places or where they just sell any of these type of items that are easy to pick up, you forget to bring with you, um, it just makes it easier so you can find something. Now, a prime example of this is maybe you don't forget to bring it, but you don't like the selection of sunblock where you live because it's a certain time of year, it's cold, it's not really prime staying out, going out in the sun weather, so you have to buy whatever they have for you. So you decide to just pick up a small thing of it, just to say you have it, and when you get to where you are, say anywhere in Florida, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Southern California, like if you're cruising out of Long Beach or or San Pedro in Los Angeles or San Diego, you can just walk into any supermarket, CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, etc., and pick up your sunblock. And also, they have a better selection in some of those places too. So you might want to just consider skipping bringing the whole thing of sunblock with you, and the day before, just picking up whatever you need and pick and choose more wisely. Okay, so another thing you want to do, and I can't stress this enough because excuse me, my allergies are bad today. When you fly in for your cruise, you always want to avoid connecting flights as much as possible, even if it means flying into alternate airports closer to your cruise destination, because no one wants to deal with no one wants to deal with connecting flights and worrying about delayed flights, missing your connecting flight, a connecting flight getting canceled, your flight to your connecting flight getting canceled, and pretty much getting stranded, and you missed your cruise, or you get in right before the cruise leaves, and you're completely stressed out. So no one really wants to deal with that. So as I said, you might want to consider flying into alternative airports, which are within a 2 to 3 hours of your embarkation port, if the airfare, especially if the airfare is cheaper. Now, prime example is, say you're a party of 3 or 4 people, your friends, you're going on a cruise together. Now, you find an airfare that is $75 less money, say, from going from one place to another, but your cruise embarkation port is about a 2.5, 3 hour drive. Wait, this is where you would want to consider splitting a rental car for that 2.5, 3 hour drive. Because if you're splitting a rental car 4 ways, 3 ways, 4 ways, it is actually cheaper than the airfare itself of 75 to 100, up to $75 or more per person that you're splitting a rental car for, and it's still cheaper with the gas, and this way you can fly nonstop. You don't have to consider changing planes somewhere, and you also have the rental car at your disposal if you want to just stop, get something to eat, if you want to need to do anything the day before your cruise leaves. You also have the rental car at your disposal. Me and my friends have done this a few times actually. We would I've Me and one friend of mine have done this 3 separate times. We've done it all 3 times. We've been cruising out of Miami when we did this. One time we flew into West Palm Beach, split a rental car 3 ways. Another time we flew into Fort Lauderdale, split it 2 ways. And most recently, last year, and I still can't believe it's been almost over a year since I've been on a cruise, but for obvious reasons. We flew into Orlando on Delta. It was about $115 per person, one way on Delta into Orlando from New York. So what we did was we flew into Orlando on Thursday night. Drove about 40 minutes to Cocoa West, I believe we stayed in, and then the next morning drove down to Miami. And the airfares compared going to Miami that weekend, even West Palm Beach or Fort Lauderdale, or in Miami that weekend, were about $200, 250, up to $400 cheaper per person. So it made all the sense in the world to fly into Orlando at that particular time and split a rental car. So it can save you a lot of money. Another prime example would be if you're taking a cruise out of Port Canaveral, but anyone knows if you're flying into Orlando, airfares typically tend to be more money flying into Orlando than most other airports in Florida, because not only you have people flying in and out for cruises out of Port Canaveral, but everyone goes to Orlando for the theme parks. We're talking about Disney World, Universal, SeaWorld. People just go to Orlando, visit families. You have UCF in Orlando, and also people just go there for also sporting events at Disney's Wide World of Sports Complex. So we do um, a lot. Excuse me. So flying into Orlando typically can be more expensive than most airports in Florida. So a prime example of that would be flying into Tampa if it's much cheaper. As I said, if it's less than $75 more, less than $50, $75 more, it's probably not worth it. But if it's $75 or more, and you're with a group of people, consider flying here. flying to Tampa, rent a car. It's only a 2 hour and 15-minute drive to Port Canaveral, door to door from Tampa International Airport. You can stay in Port Canaveral, Cocoa Beach, Melbourne, and you have a rental car at your disposal. As I said, it will save you a lot of money, and also just having the peace of mind of being able to fly nonstop into somewhere and have the car at your disposal. Okay, another um, thing I wanted to mention, as I said, if you about renting a car and flying into an alternative airport. For some reason, some places you just can't fly nonstop into, no matter where you live. Even if it's a hub city for an airline that flies out of your airport, they don't always offer a nonstop flight. So you might want to consider flying into an alternative airport. Most people know that Miami International Airport is a hub city for American Airlines and Frontier. Now, we all know that Frontier charges for everything under the sun, so that's one airline. If you don't want to fly, your only other option going into Miami, really, for most airlines, unless you live in a hub city, is American Airlines. Now, American Airlines, that is not their biggest hub city, so there's not always a nonstop flight from Miami to wherever you are from. But 20 miles north of Miami at Fort Lauderdale International, excuse me, Fort Lauderdale International Airport is a hub city and focus city for three separate airlines: JetBlue, Southwest, and Spirit. Again, I wouldn't recommend flying Spirit because just like Frontier, they charge for everything under the sun. For example, say if you're not checking a bag, you only have carry-on, you still have to pay on Spirit and Frontier, both those airlines, just to put a bag in the overhead bin. They charge you to use the overhead bin, so you're really not saving any money by flying them. Um, so if you are flying from you're cruising out of Miami, consider flying into West Palm Beach or Fort Lauderdale, especially Fort Lauderdale. The odds are that Southwest and or JetBlue, and if need be Spirit, where you're from, do fly nonstop into there, and it's only 20 miles away. It's a 40-minute drive. Whether you rent a car, take the Tri-Rail from Fort Lauderdale International Airport down to downtown Miami. If you take the Go Shuttle, shared shuttle ride to Miami Beach. I've done that before. It's fine. It takes a little bit longer, about an hour and a half, because it makes all the stops along the way, but it is worth it. And consider just flying into a place like Fort Lauderdale if you're cruising out Miami, but you can't get a nonstop flight to Miami. But there are flights available into Fort Lauderdale. But also, as I said, if it's three or more people, consider renting a car if it just makes your life easier. If there's no nonstop um, flights available into Miami. Okay. Also, another thing about alternative airports, and if you live, as I said, between Boston and Washington, D.C., that I-95 corridor, you can get a nonstop flight to any of the 7 well-known airports in the state of Florida, nonstop from any of the airports, whether it's Jacksonville, Orlando, West Palm Beach, uh, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Fort Myers, Sarasota, Tampa. I think I mentioned Orlando. You can find a flight nonstop to any one of those airports. So always consider which airport has A, the best flight times, and B, which have the most flights. For example, if you're cruising out of Miami, but they it could end up with a more of a excuse me, you could end up with more flight options flying from LaGuardia to West Palm Beach or LaGuardia or JFK into Fort Lauderdale rather than LaGuardia or JFK right into Miami, because technically that is true. There are more flights from both JFK and LaGuardia to Fort Lauderdale than there are from LaGuardia or JFK into Miami. And it's actually, I believe, LaGuardia to West Palm Beach offers the most flights, and LaGuardia to Fort Lauderdale or offers the second most flights. I could be wrong right there. It could be vice versa on that, where LaGuardia to Fort Lauderdale has more flights than LaGuardia to West Palm Beach. I'll check on that later, but for the most part, using New York as an example, LaGuardia probably is your best bet unless you're someone who works at JFK like me and you get free parking. Then you don't have much of a choice unless you want to depend on someone picking you up and dropping you off. But that's another story for another time. Okay. Now, on to my next topic, hotels and lodging. Now, this is quite simple. Once you book your cruise, some people book in over a year in advance, so you can't book your hotel right away. But as soon as it's possible for you to book your hotel, especially in your embarkation port city, book it as soon as possible because anyone who goes on cruise regularly knows those hotels, the closest to port, sell out. They fill up the quickest. It's just a known fact because if you're staying at that hotel, most maybe not even on your cruise ship, if you're staying in a place like Port Canaveral, going out of Port Canaveral, all the hotels in Cape Canaveral, Cocoa Beach, even if it's just not on your cruise ship, about 85-90% of people are, if you're not going on your cruise ship, they're staying on going on another cruise ship that are staying at your hotel. So you gotta get those booked right away. Otherwise, you're going to be staying in the middle of nowhere, and then you really are going to need that rental car, no matter how many people are going with you. Um, Another thing, when you are booking your hotels, Airbnb, etc., make sure you have a certain distance in mind away from the cruise port you want because some cities, Fort Lauderdale, Port Everglades is a perfect example of this. The port is opposite the airport in Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, so it's not close to it's not closer to Fort Lauderdale. It's actually closer to Hollywood Beach. So if you want to stay in Fort Lauderdale by the beach, you have two options. You can stay at hotels that are further down that are right on the beach, or ones that are closer to the airport, which are across the street from the beach. I did this once, my first time for Lauderdale, I don't know how long. I stayed at a hotel, believe it or not, that I saw on all of all things bar rescue that a tiki bar that Taffer fixed up. So that's one of the few hotels I knew about in Fort Lauderdale. We stayed there, and it turned out to be 15-20 minutes away from the port. Rather, if we stayed a little bit further down, we only would have been 5-10 minutes away from the port, which I did the next time I stayed in Fort Lauderdale. So you always need to have a certain distance in mind away from where you want to be from the port in case to go back and forth, or just to be like, we don't want to be any further away from this port. Okay. Another thing is if you have a membership to a hotel brand like a frequent flyer membership or cruise loyalty membership, this goes for hotels. A hotel loyalty membership such as Hilton Honors. If you have enough points and you're staying in a certain place where you know everyone's going to be Cocoa Beach again, I'm going to use an example, or Cape Canaveral, I'm using an example, and almost if you're staying on a Friday or Saturday night, about 95% of the people at your hotel are going to be going on a cruise ship, whether it's your cruise or another cruise. If you have enough hotel points there, I just recommend use them. Just use them. Otherwise, the hotel rooms are going to be more money than they usually are. I'd say about 25, 30, 40% more than normal because everyone at your hotel, which will be full, is going on a cruise. So in order to save some money, use your hotel points if you can. If you can't use your points, stay at a hotel brand that you know. Last thing you want to do, unless you stay in a place like Miami Beach, where they're pretty much all little boutique hotels, always stay at a major hotel brand because you know exactly what you're getting. You don't want to get to your hotel and then surprise not it's not nice, it's not a place you really want to stay, but you don't have much of a choice because everything else is full. So if you're going to a certain place, stay at a major hotel brand. It will because you know exactly what you're getting. Just like when you book on Royal Caribbean, you book on Carnival, you book on Norwegian, you know exactly what you're getting from that cruise line. It's the same thing with the hotel. Just excuse me again. Like I said, my allergies are pretty bad. Just stay with a hotel brand you're familiar with because you know exactly what you're getting. When you book at a Holiday Inn, you know what you're getting. You book at a Hilton, a Hampton, you know exactly what you're getting. You know that your money is well worth it. So take that in consideration when you're booking a hotel. One more thing, when booking your hotel, location is key. I can't stress that enough because if you're cruising out of your embarkation part downtown out of say the Port of Miami here, you can choose to Some people do stay in Fort Lauderdale for this, but you have to keep in mind Fort Lauderdale is 20 miles away, a 40-minute drive away from Miami, and then you have to figure out the morning of the cruise how to get to Miami. You either have to take a shared van, you're renting a car and dropping off that morning. You have to you're going to take a car service, which can be very, very expensive. So you have to consider where your location is. If you're going out of Port of Miami, you have several locations to stay in downtown Miami. You can stay in Miami Beach, you can stay in Brickell, you can stay in anywhere within the city of Miami and pretty much in Miami Beach and not have a problem getting to the port the next morning. So keep that in mind. If you're going out of Miami, uh, plenty of hotels in downtown Miami, plenty in Miami Beach, and also consider Brickell. But keep in mind, if you do stay in Fort Lauderdale, you're 20 miles away from where you're cruising out of, so you have to get there, and that could potentially be a problem. So keep that in mind. Okay, my last topic I want to talk about in this video is Embarkation Day. Now, one thing you'll hear over and over again, I'm gonna stress it, don't head over to the port too early, okay? Keep in mind, boarding never starts before 11:30 ever. It's a miracle if it ever does. I don't know how they do it. Sometimes it's just a miscommunication between the boarding terminal, the cruise terminal, and the cruise ship, and they start boarding early before the cruise ships are actually ready to start. So keep in mind, your boarding process is not going to really start to begin until 11:30, 12 o'clock, and on the most cruise terminals don't start checking until around 9:45, 10 o'clock in the morning. So if you get there first thing in the morning, about 8:30, 9:15 in the morning, if there's no space inside the terminal before they open up the security ropes, there's gonna be a line of people outside waiting outside the terminal to check in. So keep in mind, you don't want to get there too early because you're going to have to wait to check in. It's just a fact. Now another thing you want to do is have breakfast the morning of the cruise before you leave your hotel and you head to the port. The cruise terminals do offer water, orange juice, apple juice, and some other maybe milk to drink in the terminal, but they don't have any food. So if you don't have breakfast that morning, you're not gonna really eat anything till around 11:30, 12 o'clock when the cruise ship starts boarding. Because when they start boarding, they're also ready to start serving lunch. They don't start boarding until pretty much they are ready to start serving lunch. So you have to keep that in mind. If you skip breakfast that morning, you are not going to have anything to eat till around 11:30, 12 o'clock. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, you are going to be really hungry by the time you get on the cruise ship because you did not have anything to eat yet, and they do not really have food in the cruise terminal. And the next thing I'm gonna say, this used to not be that much of an issue, but in the COVID world now they're always gonna be checking, make sure people are healthy and everything. Don't show up hungover to the cruise port anymore. I've been guilty of that a couple of times. I've gone out and the night before, partied a little bit, started my cruise trip a night early, and you show up at the port hungover. Usually, it used to be they just knew you were hungover, you were out the night before. But now in the COVID world, sadly, if you show up to the port looking like you're sick, it really can delay your check-in process because they are really going to do all the testing and make sure you are actually 100, you're not sick at all. So just keep that in mind now. It can delay in your check-in process if so. Just try not to get really hungover the night before. Um, Go out partying the night before the cruise because you show up hungover. Now, especially I think even more so now, it's going to be more of an issue if you look like you're sick when you show up at the cruise port. Okay, the last thing I'm going to say is um, once you're in the terminal, just relax until boarding begins. Read a book, listen to music, um, read a magazine. If you're there with your friends, talk with your friends. If you're talking to other people you meet in the terminal, that's fine. Just relax. You're getting ready to board the cruise ship. Just do anything you can to keep yourself nice and calm and relaxed because soon, very soon, you're going to be getting on the cruise ship and your cruise vacation will finally begin. So just relax. You're almost on board. So, in closing, I just like to say Your cruise vacation, it's your time to relax. So when you book everything, when you plan everything, just do whatever you can to make it all as simple and stress-free as possible because you're on vacation and just make it as easy as possible for you once you get on vacation. It's that simple. I hope you all liked my video. Please like and comment below. Everyone have a good day, good cruising, and I will see you all soon. Bye.